Well, hello again, friends. I hope you had a very spiritual Christmas and New Year session, and Happy New Year to you all. This year is going to be difficult, as I'm sure most of you know, either in your conscious mind or unconsciously. And Chandra has outlined some of the difficulties in the section she just presented. So we're going to continue with the discussion of the latest developments regarding the passage of Nibiru to Earth and the various effects which this planet is having. And if you could go to the next slide now, Chandra, actually the slide after that. We'll skip the overview. Okay, Chandra, I think she's frozen. She's gotten frozen. Here we go. Can we go to the next one, please? Next slide.
Do you want the one that says crop circle in Brazil?
We'll skip over this.
Am I freezing? Am I? Crop circle in Brazil.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, that one. Okay. Okay, now something happened in. Yeah, that's right. That's good. Yeah. Something happened on the 3rd of November of last year, which actually wasn't reported until the middle or the end of that month. And of course, it wasn't reported here at all in Australia because, of course, the powers that be, the authorities, want us to believe that crop circles are just hoaxes performed by pranksters for various reasons. But of course, according to Zetatalk and my own personal belief, the crop circles have appeared over the years, mainly in the United Kingdom, but other parts of the world, in this case, Brazil, in the province of Santa Catarina, and it's a town called Ipuaku, or Ipuasu, not sure how that's pronounced. Now, it's interesting because other circles have appeared near Ipuasu in the past, so it's sort of a crop circle hotspot in the southern hemisphere. And there you see it, a view from above. And as usual with the genuine crop circles, and of course there are many fakes, we know that, but the genuine circles have a certain beauty about them, a certain elegance, a certain refinement. But the key question is, what do they mean? And when you get into the interpretation of the crop circles, it gets quite complex, quite difficult sometimes because the message conveyed isn't straightforward, isn't easily ascertained or found or analyzed. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Chandra.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a delay. I'm doing it, Zach. It just takes a bit of a while to come through.
Okay, very good. Okay, well, as you can see at the top, three different views of this crop circle near Ipuasu or Ipuaku. And this is from the Zetatalk interpretation from November of last year. Quote, we have stated that the last weeks will ensue at the end of 2026, with the passage occurring in early 2027. When they say passage, they mean Nibiru passing the Earth, and that will create a pole shift according to Zetatalk. And I've talked about this extensively in past weeks and months. There are 14 triangles in the peripheral circle in this design. The last weeks are 7 weeks in duration, thus the last weeks are 2 months. If one counts the months between the present November to November 26, then it's 2 months for the last week. One arrives at the 2027 date we predicted for the passage. This crop circle design is confirming our prediction. Now that's not easy. That's not easy to absorb. That's not easy to understand. It's highly, highly symbolic because it refers not to physical plane events, but to the passage of time. But that's the Zetatalk interpretation. And for those of us interested in such designs, we have to use our own intuition, our own awareness, our own consciousness to try to see whether or not that interpretation is correct. For me, I generally accept that that is probably, I can't say definitely, but probably the case with this crop circle. Okay, Chandra, next slide, please. Okay, now we've had a spectacular development regarding the visibility of Nibiru. Now, as Nibiru approaches closer to the Earth, some photos are being taken which are stunning in their clarity and detail. On the 6th of December last year, This photo of Nibiru was captured in the skies above Venice, California, and posted by a gentleman who calls himself Mr. MBB333 on Instagram. And it is indeed a stunning photograph of Nibiru and the two dominant moons on either side and the tail wafting, the double tail, you could say, wafting. And sad to say, Mr. MBBB333 doesn't have a clue about what this actually is. And that's just the way it is. He doesn't read Zeta Talk and obviously doesn't really care about what they comment or not. And that's just that's the outlook, the view of many people. But we do have this spectacular photographic image of Nibiru, probably the clearest we've had yet to date. Okay, Chandra, next slide, please. Okay. According to Zeta Talk, this is Nibiru with its two dominant moons on either side, each with their own entourage of minor moons. So we can see just what a complex system this is. It's like a small planetary system in and of itself. The Nibiru complex is also rotating counterclockwise, which can be seen from the direction the haze of dust in their tails is blowing away. And you can see this sort of haze reaching out from either side of the central circle, which is Nibiru itself. This image passes the pixel analysis, not a doctored cut and paste job, so it's a genuine photo, not a fake. This shows the closeness of Nibiru to Earth at this time, with heightened visibility as predicted. Let the frantic debate of the Nibiru cover-up crowd begin. Well, there will be no debate because the Nibiru cover-up crowd will simply ignore it, and the mainstream media won't report it. And even though the photograph appears on certain websites, like the Instagram account of Mr. MBB333, he doesn't have a clue what it represents. So the Nibiru cover-up continues, and the Nibiru cover-up crowd isn't, I don't think, particularly worried about this image being posted on the internet for all and sundry to see. Okay, Chandra, next slide. Okay, this is from Zeta Talk just last month. Now, the main excuse for Nibiru visible is the Atlas comet, which is emerging from behind the sun at present. In previous lectures, I think number 10 and number 11, I covered Atlas and how the comet is being used as a substitute or prop to explain away Nibiru. I won't go through that again, but I'll just continue reading. This excuse may hold for the month of December and into early January, but will quickly fade after that as Atlas is predicted to zoom to the right out toward Jupiter, while Nibiru is taking a position centered in front of the sun. Compare the photos of Atlas to the Nibiru photos with dominant moons featured on the Mr. MBB333 site weeks ago, which we have just seen. This excuse buys the Nibiru cover-up crowd another month at most, while in the meantime preparations for martial law proceed. And we'll talk about martial law later, especially what's happening in the United States, where it's really being imposed with a very heavy hand. Nibiru will become closer, the details on the complex evident from the dominant moons in a helix on either side to the many strings of pearls arrangements within the complex. So we're looking at a very, very complex system, basically a miniature solar system, I would say. Debate in the alternative media will continue. That is true to some extent. Social media will be shut down and the subject banned. That is certainly true, while martial law continues to be imposed on the creep. And as mentioned, we'll talk about martial law and how it's being rolled out, especially in a nation such as America. We have predicted that by April, the truth will be out of control. That's April this year, 2026. The truth will be out of control. Well, I'm not so sure. I think the authorities will manage to suppress the subject. The discussion of Nibiru will be limited to a few individuals or groups that are considered fringe by the mainstream establishment, such as this one, and so on. Okay, thanks for the next slide. Another change in the visibility of Nibiru has recently occurred due to Nibiru's shift in position. Now it's in front of the sun, causing the sun's image to become brighter and fractured in appearance. And you can see this photograph taken just this month, few weeks ago, in the state of Idaho. Now, it's interesting. I have looked at the sun myself recently, And it does seem brighter. The problem is you can't really gaze at the sun for any length of time because it affects your retina. So you can't look, you have to look away unless you have some sort of filtering device, which I don't. But I've noticed the sun seems brighter in the last week or two. And it well may be because of this repositioning of Nibiru in front of the sun instead of to the side at the 10 or 11 o'clock position, which is what we view here in the southern hemisphere. Okay, this is a set of talk comment from this month. Nibiru's path has now moved from the right-hand side of the sun, that is in the northern hemisphere, from the 4 o'clock position, once again, northern hemisphere. Here in the southern hemisphere, it's 11 or 10 or 11 o'clock, to be centered in front of the sun, preparing for the passage. Where sunlight formerly pulled toward Nibiru's gravity draw bouncing off the dust cloud of Nibiru in all directions, it is now focused most intensely at the center of Nibiru, where it passes directly through the dust cloud on its way to Earth. Sunlight is no longer diffused and dispersed, but focused and multiplied, thus the brightness. And you can make your own observations, of course, but word of caution, of course, don't stare at the sun too long with without any sort of filter device, otherwise you can injure your retina. All right, there are other Nibiru-related phenomena in the skies, and of course that there's a complete blackout about those in the mainstream media. They don't want us to know, but nevertheless, it is happening, and we do have the photos, as you can see. One of the very interesting ones is the electric arcing from the charged tail of Nibiru to the sun, and that was captured on 6 December, 2025, not 2925, over Idaho in the US. And you can see these photographs. And what do they mean? Well, Zetatalk explains. This is arcing from the sun to Nibiru's charged tail. Ordinarily, the tail is overshadowed by the glare of the sun, but with the solar filters, this glare is reduced to allow more detail. These arcs are reaching toward Earth in 2 dimensions, and Nibiru is at the orbit of Venus, so the arcs are visible and nearby. Nibiru is below the sun, but has a retrograde clockwise rotation, so the tail is wafting to the left, as you can see in the photos. We have predicted lightning between Nibiru and Earth during the passage. The passage means during the last weeks and the pole shift itself, which is predicted to take place in early 2027 sometime, as you may be aware. Okay, Chandra, next slide, please. All right. In the Kolbrin is a ancient book which was written in Egyptian times. I've read very brief parts of it, but not the whole thing, so I don't really know much about it. Revelations, of course, is from the New Testament, the book of Revelations. According to the Kolbrin and Revelations, interplanetary lightning causing trumpeting occurs during the last weeks, and we've talked about this in other lectures. We have stated that Nibiru comes to a distance of 14 million miles from the Earth at that time, with the moons of Nibiru coming no closer than 5 million miles from the Earth. Now, 5 million miles might seem a long way away, but in terms of cosmic distances, solar systemic distances, 5 million miles really isn't that far away. So these moons of Nibiru are coming pretty close to the Earth during the passage, according to this prediction. The trumpeting during the last weeks comes from lightning passing between Nibiru and the Earth. The previous slide we saw lightning, you could say lightning, actually it's technically arcing between Nibiru and the sun, but as we get to the last weeks, that would be at the end of this year, according to Zetatalk predictions, the lightning passes between Nibiru and the Earth. Trumpeting from such lightning will also occur periodically prior to that time. Petroglyphs found on cave walls show that interplanetary lightning is visible and does not ground on Earth. So next slide, please, where we see the various petroglyphs from various parts around the world. Okay, and here it is, and we see a wide variety of locations. In America, Arizona and New Mexico, also Tucson, Arizona. The images have appeared in Armenia, in Italy, Venezuela, in the Alps, the UAE, and these are legacies left from those earlier civilizations, so-called primitive, quote unquote, civilizations, recording the passage of lightning between the Earth and Nibiru during the previous passage of Nibiru, which was around 1600 BC. Next slide, please. Okay, you may or may not have heard of toxic air in the United States. I don't think it's been reported here, but maybe you know about it. In December 2024, what was described as dry, toxic fog appeared in several American states and also the United Kingdom. Now the US media is reporting toxic air in 3 states, and thousands are warned to stay indoors. And this is from the website MSN just this month. Thousands warned to stay indoors in Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. That's the headline of the article. Thousands of residents and communities across Arizona, including Nogales, New Mexico, including Juarez, and Texas, including El Paso, have been advised to stay inside as fine particles of pollution, which technically are known as PM 2.5, reached unhealthy levels as of the AM on January 19th of this month. The EPA considers PM 2.5 to be one of the most dangerous forms of air pollution. This is because the particles are so small, each one is less than 2.5 micrometers in size, which is far thinner than a single strand of hair. So those are pretty small in the relative dimension in which we as human beings live. Next slide, please. Okay, and these are the Zetatalk comments on this report in the mainstream media. If the EPA, that's the Environmental Protection Agency in the United States, if the EPA is avoiding placing blame for this air pollution in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona, then it is not smoke from fires or winds whipping road dust. We have the mysterious dry, toxic fog from Nibiru, and now we have a mysterious toxic air. Both have the same base, the wafting tail of Nibiru. And you can see in the 4 photographs above, I think 3 of them are from the United States, one is from the UK, all dated December 2024, that this phenomena appeared and no one could really explain it. And no one really knew what it is or what it represents. But according to Zetatalk, particulate from the wafting tail of Nibiru. Now, the old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. As mentioned, Nibiru has a vast, long tail which is greasy and soaked with petrol. As Nibiru comes closer to Earth, we see examples of fires caused by the ignition of the petrol tail in the atmosphere. And of course, as expected, this phenomenon has been covered up by the media. A significant fire occurred in the city of Oita, Japan, on the 18th to 19th of November last year, which caused 170 buildings to burn. And the only reference I could find to this fire in the Australian media was an article from the ABC News. I couldn't find any other reference to it, so it wasn't really reported that much here in Australia. Could we get to the next slide, please? Okay, from November 2025, Zetatalk comments. At the start of the Zetatalk saga, we stated that all forests would burn during the forthcoming pole shift as a result of burning petrol descending to Earth. We did not predict a timeline. Skyfire has emerged with burning petrol balls descending worldwide. This has now been followed by Skyglow, where the upper atmosphere is peppered with petrol, causing a glow. This is causing fires not only in forests, but cities too. The majority of cases are caused by burning petrol. And just as a sort of an aside or footnote, one has to wonder about these bushfires in Victoria and some other states of Australia that we've been seeing recently. Have they too been caused by Skyglow or Skyfire? Well, we don't really know, but I think there is a possibility of that, but we can't be certain. Okay, an example of a city set on fire by burning petrol is Japan on November 18th and 19th. That was Oita, and we just saw the photos of the burning buildings there, 170 of them. The video shows Skyglow overhead. How will the populace react to burning forests in cities? Forests will regrow from the ashes, and many seeds need the scorch to activate them. But burning cities will incite migration, with the populace leaving and then returning, as no city will be safe. Fairly ominous prediction, to state the obvious. Let's go to the next slide, Chandra. Now, this is a fire in an apartment complex which was widely reported in the Australian media. And that happened toward the end of November last year. when a large fire broke out at the Wang Fuk Court apartment complex in Tai Po, Hong Kong. It burned for 43 hours, 27 minutes. 7 out of the 8 blocks of the complex were consumed by the fire. It killed 168 people and injured 79. And this was, as mentioned, widely reported. They really couldn't ignore it, the media. Okay, the Zetatalk comments at the top of the slide state, it appears that urban areas are not exempt. The Japan blaze has been followed by Hong Kong high-rise buildings which went ablaze en masse. And of course, that's the last thing in the world that the mainstream media or any government or the authorities want the public to know, namely is that Skyglow from Nibiru is actually causing destructive fires to occur here on planet Earth. They certainly don't want the people to know about that or understand that phenomenon. Next slide, please. Next slide.
Have you got the Skyglow one? No?
Next slide, please.
I'm trying. It's frozen.
Okay, got it. Got it. Skyglow. There's a quote from Zetatalk, where the upper atmosphere is peppered with petrol, causing a glow. And the petrol is basically
Chandra, do you want me to continue sharing or you share? Chandra?
yeah, I don't see her
Okay.
face, so I think you'll have to take it.
Well, she must be on because she just started recording again. But I'm happy to keep sharing whatever works.
Can we get this slide into full screen mode? Can you do that, B?
We'll try. Oh, far out. Sorry.
That's okay. Just take your time.
Yeah.
See if you can do it.
Is that better? No.
It's okay, but it might be nicer if it was larger.
Trying. I'm not familiar with. Oh, God.
Okay, well, I think in that case, we may be at the end of the premature end of my little lecture.
Is that better?
Okay, got it now. Very good.
Okay, good.
Okay, Skyglow, and as mentioned, the definition from Zetatalk, the upper atmosphere is peppered with petrol, causing a glow. Skyglow events are happening more frequently around the world as Nibiru approaches the Earth and its long, greasy, petrol-soaked tail ignites in the upper atmosphere. Now, these 3 photos were taken from Siberia in November of last year. Quote, is this Skyglow light from burning petrol bombarding the upper atmosphere? It is indeed, due to a waft of the tail of Nibiru in Siberia. The appearance of light towers rising from the ground is due to the sympathetic ground vibrations reacting to the vibrations we predicted in the upper atmosphere. And that's very interesting. The Earth vibrations are somehow attuning to the atmospheric vibrations and causing these sort of towers or these streaks, as you can see in the photo on the right, particularly. This is the first solid proof of our Skyglow prediction. The fact that this occurred on the night side of the globe is further confirmation. KB, can you get to the next slide, please? Very good. And guess what, folks? We've got Skyglow right here in Australia. Not that you would hear about a word of that in the mainstream media because they don't want you to know. Okay. You may remember that just last week, that's the 21st and 22nd of January, there were many reports in the media here about the visibility of the southern hemisphere auroras, or the aurora australis, as it's officially known, which would be on display around those dates. Because those images match the Skyglow photos from Siberia, my conclusion, and by all means make up your own mind, is they are actually Skyglow images masquerading as something else. And this is from 9 News, as you can see, the image at the top. Oh, it's Aurora Australis. It's a stunning image. Well, no, it's actually Skyglow. And it's labeled something else because they don't want the population to really know. Thank you very much. Here's another image from 9 News around the 21st of January. And this is definitely not Aurora Australis. This is Skyglow, folks. I don't even know why they bothered to put that photo up on their website, but they did. Thank you very much, Nine News, because we can pretty well conclusively show, not conclusively maybe, but with a great deal of authority, that this is actually Skyglow and nothing to do with the Aurora Australis. Now, the Nine News headline was severe geomagnetic storm raging over Australia may trigger aurora tonight. And from the article itself, a powerful geomagnetic storm currently in progress could trigger the aurora australis and set the skies above the country ablaze in colorful lights tonight. But the rare phenomena won't be visible in every state if it happens at all. Yesterday, now listen very closely to the final sentence. Yesterday, the sun released a powerful solar flare which sent a coronal mass ejection, or CME, speeding towards Earth. And from my experience, whenever the media talks about CMEs or solar flares, they are covering up the truth about Nibiru and its influence on the planet Earth, and now, of course, in regard to sky glow and sky fire. So thank you very much, Nine News, for posting this image on your website. Clearly nothing to do with Aurora Australis. Next slide, please. Very good. And here two more images from Nine News, top left and bottom right. Now, the photo in the bottom left-hand corner is from Siberia in November of 2025, just a few months ago. And I put it there so you can compare what was seen in Siberia in November to the quote-unquote Aurora Australis displays in images posted on the Nine News website. Very, very interesting indeed. Next slide, please. Okay, the reports about the Aurora Australis display from ABC News were much more subtle, and here it gets very interesting, my friends. In my opinion, it's a brilliant example, an absolute brilliant example of misinformation/disinformation dressed up in respectable clothing. In other words, we've got the scientific evidence, and you have to believe what we're telling you because it's what the scientists say. But in reality, it's disinformation. It's a lie. It's very, very clever, though, because the two photos you see here were taken in Tasmania. I think one was near Hobart, and I think the one on the right there was a water view from of a major bridge across two islands near Hobart, whatever. And the other one on the left is of a bridge, another bridge. And in the atmosphere, you can clearly see what is the Aurora Australis. That's what an Aurora Australis should actually look like. It contains what I call scalloping, or the rippling effect in the lower edges of the aura. And of course, the aura it's like a curtain unfolding, or a series of curtains unfolding in the sky, and all the edges, the bottom edges of that curtain, have that rippling, that scalloped effect. So yes, this is the real Aurora Australis. According to the headline in ABC News, Aurora Australis seen across Australia as geomagnetic storms deliver spectacular light show. Next photo, next slide, please. But then the ABC News report slipped in a photo taken at Pea Soup Beach at Port Fairy, Victoria. That's on the southwest coast of Victoria, in case you're not too aware of Port Fairy, which is most probably not an aurora shot, but rather sky glow. Now, I can't be 100% certain that it is actually sky glow, but given the sky glow images we've seen from Siberia and other parts of Australia, thanks to Nine News, I think we could probably conclude that this really isn't the Aurora Australis. It's probably sky glow. Now, how interesting is that? How subtle is the technique of presenting valid information, i.e. the two photos taken in Hobart of the genuine Aurora Australis, and then they slip in a photo taken in Victoria which is probably not Aurora Australis, but Skyglow. They have made propaganda and disinformation into a fine art form. That's my view anyway. Make up your own minds by all means, my friends. Next slide, please. Okay, what is also happening is a blending of the seasons, and Chandra did mention this in her report, her portion. As the daily Earth wobble increases, two noticeable effects occur globally. Number one, extremes of cold during the winter and heat during the summer. Oh, guess what's happening, folks, in Australia? We're getting hit with this massive heat wave. Record temperatures just, I think it was on Tuesday, I believe, just a few days ago. Record temperatures in South Australia, parts of South Australia. I think there were record temperatures near the New South Wales border in northern Victoria. I mean, I think one of the temperatures I saw was 48.9 or 48 or 49.9, and I thought, wow, that is super hot. Meanwhile, if you follow the news in the United States, they're getting hit with a massive, massive cold front sweeping down from Canada. And Chandra did touch briefly upon those events. So this is what's happening thanks to the daily Earth wobble, which is increasing. Extremes of cold during winter, extremes of heat during the summer. And secondly, a blending of the seasons. We are seeing this all around the world. Of course, the powers that be in the media are lying about the true causes behind that. And according to Zetatalk, the real blending of the seasons, when you can't, apparently, the prediction is we won't be able to determine whether it's winter or summer, spring or fall, because the seasons will be completely blended. That, according to them, only occurs during the last weeks before the pole shift. So that would be toward the end of this year if the prediction of early 2027 for the pole shift is correct. And you can see from the posting in the image above, absolute insanity going on in the Arctic, mind-blowing minimum 4.4 at Greece fjord. So that's a minimum. That's pretty hot for the Arctic. The hottest night ever recorded in November-April semester. And records are being smashed in the Arctic and Northeast America. So we're getting this swing. And of course, we've seen that swing, particularly in December of last year. We had here in Victoria anyway, maybe 2 days, 3 days when the temperature was reasonably warm, let's say mid 20s, sometimes high 20s, and then it would flip back to the teens for 2 or 3 days, and then it would flip back to mid to high 20s. So we're seeing this movement of between extreme temperatures for any given month of the year. So that's what's happening. And the cause, according to Zetatalk, is the fact that the Earth is wobbling on its axis, and that wobble is increasing in severity as Nibiru approaches the Earth, and the huge electromagnetic force field of Nibiru, which is said to be some 23 times greater than that of the Earth, affects our planet. But of course, the powers that be don't want you or I to know anything about that, so it's all been covered up, and just covered up with mountains of disinformation, lies, and so on. Okay, next slide, please, if we'd be so good. All right, once again, continuing extreme temperatures around the world. This is in January summer, as they call it. This would be the northern hemisphere, of course. The northern hemisphere, January would be the middle of winter, but they're calling it a January summer. 35 degrees centigrade in Algeria in the winter, 20 degrees in Russia. That's hot for Russia, man, in the middle of winter. Tropical nights in Greece. Records allow all over central eastern Mediterranean from Algeria to Turkey, with the exception of Italy. And then in the bottom post, we are witnessing the most insane, unbelievable event in European climatic history. Greeks from Crete sleeping with air conditioning in January. Now, I've been to Crete. Crete and Greece in January, many years ago now, and it gets pretty cold there. So at the moment, they're apparently turning on the air conditioning because it's getting so hot in January. Unbelievable. Temperatures up to 26 degrees Celsius or centigrade in the middle of the night. It's like August. 3 centuries of European climatic history is rewritten today. And of course, this has been downplayed by the mainstream media. They don't really talk about the weather in Europe. They don't want you and I, the common man. They regard us as ignorant peasants and peons, the hoi polloi to be manipulated and exploited, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the situation we're actually facing on planet Earth during this wonderful time of of our history. Next slide, please. All right, this is from this year, this month. Zetatalk comment. A blending of the seasons occurs inevitably when a severe wobble is relentlessly in place. This current severe wobble started on Christmas Day. Now that would be the 26th of December here, because we're a day ahead of the United States. The surprise, the Zetas had predicted, the Council of Worlds had arranged to break the Nibiru cover-up, and there were posts on Zetatalk in December last month talking about a surprise, a Christmas surprise, but they didn't say what it was. And now they're saying, oh, well, there was a severe wobble of the Earth, which started on the 25th of December here, the 26th in North America. The blending of the seasons is not a curse, as the median temperature is not the severe cold of winter or the intense heat and drought of summer. Nibiru is at present in the midst of its first 270-degree roll, the cause of the current wobble and blend. So once again, it all devolves, it all originates with Nibiru, and of course, Nibiru is being covered up by the powers that be, and not that many people on the planet are aware of what is actually going on, sad to say. Next slide, please. Okay, this a very recent Zetatalk post, which I found extremely interesting. It's about extraterrestrial or alien disclosure from governments, in particular the American government, the US government. And this is what Zetatalk claimed. Of course, aliens are visiting Earth, and over half the human inhabitants are contactees, chatting away with these visitors. They come in all shapes and sizes, from hominid to every life form known on Earth. Why isn't the truth out there? Well, the answer is many reasons. One being that the CIA and other intelligence organizations want to reverse engineer the alien technology before they get competition from the general public. And we know, those of us who have studied UFOs and the whole sorry history of the cover-up know that that's been a primary objective of the American government, the CIA, the US military, i.e., to capture these craft and back engineer them so they develop these wonderful saucer-like craft. Sadly, in the case of the military and the CIA, they're being used for military purposes. Another reason is the CIA is spreading the story that aliens are evil to keep the common man from chatting with them. Now, the image on the left is sort of the mascot for the mascot for the Zetatalk website. It refers to an individual that was caught or captured at the Roswell crash. That's July 1947, and he was given the nickname Skinny Bob. And I think you can see why that nickname was applied. And you can see this is the sort of typical alien body structure, especially the head structure and the eye structure, which has been reported by many, many contactees around the world for decades now. So the prediction, as we'll soon see, is that this will soon be disclosed publicly by Donald Trump and the US government. Well, let's see. Next slide. All right, the photograph at the top is a series of UFOs that appeared over the city of Montreal in the province of Quebec in Canada in 2023. There are many, many photos I could have used. That one sort of just stuck out, so I put it on. In that humans subconsciously know the alien presence is real, the CIA is losing this battle. There are many photo captures of aliens on the internet already. Soon, it will not matter if official disclosure is provided. It will be just another secret the government was reluctant to share. And I certainly believe that in the truth of that, we just don't know the timeline. We have predicted that sightings of alien bodies will increase, and certainly during times of trauma, such as the coming pole shift, this will occur. They will come to help, and no one will be surprised. Very interesting comments, and I totally concur with those predictions. Next slide, please. Now here it gets very, very interesting. Now comes the incredible claim regarding official U.S. government disclosure of UFOs and aliens, namely that our wonderful president, the wonderful President Donald Trump, is preparing to announce their existence in July of this year. Now, this is from a website called the International Business Times, posted just this month. British documentary maker Mark Christopher Lee has made the astonishing claim, it is truly astonishing indeed, that Donald Trump is preparing to deliver what he calls the most important announcement in human history during the 2026 World Cup. The 2026 World Cup is the international soccer competition that occurs every 4 years, and this year it's taking place in the United States and Canada. The filmmaker alleges Washington insiders have confirmed the US president has already written a speech that will reveal mankind has made first contact with aliens. Lee predicts Trump will address the nation on 8th July 2026, while billions watch the football tournament in the US. And 8 July 2026 is exactly 79 years after the US Army released an official statement announcing it had recovered a flying disc following a reported UFO crash in Roswell, New Mexico. And I think most of you know about Roswell and what went on and how they originally told the truth and then they covered up with a lie. It's just crash weather balloon. Next slide, please. Okay, the controversial claim comes as Trump faces mounting pressure from whistleblowers and UFO researchers to disclose what the US government allegedly knows about extraterrestrial life. On 8 July 1947, the Roswell Army Airfield Public Information Office announced the recovery of a flying disc, only for the military to retract the statement the following day, claiming the debris had been a weather balloon used for monitoring Soviet nuclear tests. And that's what actually did happen. And ever since that time, the big lie that, yeah, Roswell was just a weather balloon crash, it had nothing to do with alien UFOs. That's been in place for almost 8 decades now. The photo at the top is very humorous, in my opinion. An ex-Bank of England analyst warns of alien disclosure of financial chaos. So it doesn't matter if we talk about, this wonderful truth finally revealed to humanity, the aliens do exist. They're worried about the effect on the markets. Imagine an official announcement confirming alien life. Markets crashing. You see, that's the first thing they're worried about. The markets will crash. Oh my God. Bank runs are starting. Oh my God. And riots in the street. That's the stark scenario, blah, blah, blah. Well, of course, it's nonsense. There might be some people who panic, but I think most people know that aliens, I'd say even probably 50% plus, maybe even 5 or 10 or 20%, God only knows, know that aliens actually do exist. I mean, no one believes the government lies about the non-existence, the fantasy that aliens and UFOs do actually exist. Complete nonsense. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, recently Nancy Lieder and ZetaTalk were queried about the accuracy of this claim by Mark Lee, and here's their reply. Quote, why would President Trump be planning to disclosure the truth about the alien presence during this coming summer, during the 79th anniversary of the Roswell crash? President Trump and his junta, that's the military junta, who've been secretly running the country since 2015 when they took over from Obama, and I covered that in the lecture I gave last month about the real story about Obama, which is completely different from the official version you'll be hearing in the media, but we won't go into details there. President Trump and his junta are braced for the reality of Nibiru to be in the media, too evident to be denied despite all excuses proffered. They have been pointedly told by the Council of Worlds that further delays will not be tolerated. Providing proof of the alien presence is considered a distraction. Oh, is that all it is? A distraction that will divert the panic that will result. Okay, next slide. Now, when I read this, I thought, oh, this is fantastic. If Trump actually does make the announcement, it would put it in the 8-decade-long lie that the debris found at Roswell were just the remnants of a weather balloon. Now, as Chandra is, I am very critical of Trump and many of his policies now. Originally, I was a Trump supporter, but definitely not now. But if he does make such an announcement, I reckon I could almost forgive him for the chaos his administration has created regarding many issues. But then just a day or two later, I realized, hey, ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen in regard to Trump making an official announcement on the 8th of July. For one thing, Nancy and ZetaTalk have a terrible record of accuracy, terrible on many past predictions. For example, around 2012, they predicted that President Obama would make an official announcement about the reality of Nibiru They kept repeating that claim for 2.5 to 3 years, long, long after it became evident that Obama would never make such an announcement. Another very important factor, in my opinion, is that Trump, being the egomaniac and narcissist that he actually is, now that's my opinion, but it's shared by many millions now, including former supporters of Trump, the so-called MAGA base in America, won't make such an announcement because it wouldn't highlight his own achievements as president. And I think in the second Trump term, we really have to look at the problematic personality that he has, especially in regard to his egomania and his self-centeredness. In the first Trump term, that would be from January 2017 to January 2021, we could sort of forgive him, because he was fighting to clean up the swamp in Washington, D.C., and he was making progress, and we knew he had a lot of enemies, and we could sort of overlook the Trump egomania, but not now. Sorry, not now. The egomania has gotten to such an extreme point that it is really badly affecting many of his decisions. And I'm not going to go any more into that. That's, I think, quite obvious to anyone who's following what's going on. Okay, next slide. So sorry, Nancy Leader and the Zetas. I do have deep respect for the post and analysis you have been broadcasting since 1995. And all in all, it's a huge body of information which I've been reading for the past 15 years now. I have great respect for Nancy Leader and the Zetas and the information they've released, because it's information we can't really get anywhere else in the world. So thank you, Nancy, and thank you to Zetas for that. But the reality, as I see it, is will just be another failed prediction from Zeta Talk. That's what it will be. And of course, we'll have to wait till early July to see who's right, myself or Nancy and the Zetas. And I hope I'm proven wrong. I do hope Trump makes the announcement, but I cannot accept what you state as being true. Sorry. But we'll see. July of this year is only about 6 months away, so less than 6 months. So we'll see what happens. It's interesting, however, to note that in some recent posts, Zeta Talk claims that Trump has been warned by the Council of Worlds to reveal the reality of Nibiru and the coming pole shift. And this is from a Zeta Talk post in late December, just a few weeks ago. Quote, the sudden and sweeping forced resignation of career diplomats just days before the end of the year indicates something momentous is about to be revealed. I can't go into the details there. The Council of Worlds has warned the Trump administration and its junta that continued stalling will not be allowed. Surprises await, and within the month of December, and that would be the increased wobble which occurred on Christmas Day in the US on the 26th of December here. The reveal of Nibiru will have a global impact where all countries are dealing with panic-stricken citizens making demands on their governments or suddenly fleeing to safer ground. A steady and consistent message being issued from the Trump administration is required, and any confusion being sowed by Biden administration hangovers must be eliminated. That refers to career diplomats mentioned in the first sentence, but once again, I can't go into the details. It's not really that important or in the overall scheme of things. Okay, next slide, please. Does anyone seriously believe that Donald Trump and his administration will comply with the directions from the council, the orders, let's say, from the Council of Worlds regarding Nibiru disclosure? Well, not me. It ain't me, babe, that's for sure. It's obvious that Trump is an egomaniac and wants all the attention, publicity, and praise he can get from all persons about any matter, as he continues to make bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, in my opinion, and many others as well. At the moment, he is busily involved with the imposition of de facto martial law in America, particularly in states such as Minnesota and the city of Minneapolis, which, as you probably know, just witnessed the shooting deaths of 2 American citizens by ICE, that's Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents, ostensibly on their mission to identify illegal aliens in the U.S. When any leader tries to impose martial law without informing persons of the real reasons behind that, namely the preservation of order from now until the pole shift, that leader, President Donald Trump, and his administration risk huge resistance and pushback from residents and citizens, because that's residents and citizens, don't know the real reasons for the de facto martial law. They conclude, quite reasonably, that their traditional rights are being destroyed by a fascist-leaning authoritarian regime. And that's the conundrum which we are seeing in America unfolding almost in front of our eyes. Next slide, please. This is the last slide. The sad reality, as I see it, is that some of the Democratic Party controlled states in America, in terms of the state governor and legislature, are on the verge of civil war. We can see that in Minnesota. Minnesota is ground zero for sure. The governor there is Tim Walz. He was the Democratic vice president candidate under Kamala Harris in the 2024 presidential election. So it's not a stretch of the imagination to say that Trump hates Walz, and Walz probably hates Trump. And many people in Minnesota hate Trump as well. California is another state where I reckon civil war is a real possibility. It all depends on how hard President Trump pushes the de facto martial law agenda, masquerading as rounding up illegal aliens, which in itself is a necessary agenda in my view. Now, you may or may not be aware of the figure of illegal aliens that were allowed to enter America under the Biden and Kamala Harris, Biden-Kamala Harris regime from 2021 to 2025. The official figure, which I've read in the media, is 8 million. 8 million illegals strolled across the border, no checks whatsoever. The unofficial figure is much higher. It's possibly double that. I've heard three different figures. One is 12 million, one is 16 million, and one is 20 million. No one can possibly know what that figure is, but it is huge. And therefore, when Trump announced he was going to be rounding up illegal aliens, which strolled across the border during the Biden era, I thought that's a really good thing. So basically, I'm not opposed to the roundup of illegal aliens, but the way the Americans are doing it, especially in Minnesota, is actually horrible. It's a complete fiasco. And seeing those two American citizens, not illegal aliens, American citizens, born in the US, who were killed recently, especially Alex Preddy, who was gunned down in cold blood on a sidewalk in Minneapolis, shot 10 times. Absolute shocking. So stay tuned. Such issues have a long way to go before any sort of resolution. Okay, friends, that's all of the presentation. And if there are any questions, I shall try to answer them for you.